In today's fight news, we start off with superstar Conor McGregor saying that he wants to finish Michael Chandler at their upcoming UFC 303 main event with a head kick, stating, "I have a titanium rod that goes into the knee and down the bone, right now to my ankle. It's unbreakable." McGregor's longtime head coach, John Kavanagh, tells Severe MMA that he doesn't see the upcoming UFC 303 matchup between McGregor and Chandler going past 2 rounds. He says Chandler will be overwhelmed by McGregor's power and speed, and also points out that McGregor's takedown defense is severely underrated. Michael Chandler also says that the fight won't go past 2 rounds. The former title challenger is predicting an early knockout or a rear naked choke to finish McGregor. Recently, on an episode of his Pound for Pound podcast, former UFC champ Henry Cejudo gives his predictions on a matchup between featherweight champion Ilia Topuria and BMF champion Max Holloway. Cejudo had this to say: "If a guy like Ilia Topuria cannot put out a guy like Max Holloway, who has endurance, gas tank, and now that he's knocking people out senseless, Ilia Topuria could be in trouble." While speaking to MMA Uncensored, former light heavyweight champion Yuri Prochazka says that he has plans to possibly move down to the middleweight division to capture gold. First off, he says he would like to regain his light heavyweight crown. While speaking on an episode of the Jackson podcast, former bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw says that he was actually rooting for former champ Cody Garbrandt in his matchup against Davison Figueiredo at the most recent UFC 300 event. Top-ranked welterweight Jack Della Maddalena recently had this to say to ESPN MMA in regards to a matchup with Shavkat Rakhmonov. "He's my age and he's finishing everyone. I've always thought he's the toughest fighter in the division, so that's the fight I've been hanging out for." After recently shocking the boxing world, superstar Ryan Garcia is calling out for a matchup with UFC bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley. The war of words has been going on between O'Malley and Ryan for quite some time now, and since his big win this past weekend, the rivalry has reignited. When speaking on the possible matchup on the Tim and Sugar Show podcast, O'Malley says that he knows the UFC will give their blessing for the boxing match. But first, the fighter thinks that he needs 2 more impressive matchups in the UFC in order to really build the fight and get it to where it needs to be. In other fight news, the brackets are officially set for the Road to UFC Season 3, which starts May 18th through the 19th at the UFC Performance Institute in Shanghai. We finish with some fight announcements. James Yontop will now take on Chris Padilla, as his original opponent, Gabe Green, is out of the matchup for UFC Vegas 91 on April 27th. The second half of the PFL regular season 2024 begins on June 13th, with the heavyweights and women's flyweights taking center stage. It looks like the WWE will hold their first event at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, as NXT Battleground will take place on Sunday, June 9th at the Apex. The UFC's venture into boxing continues, as Kayla Walsh versus Carlos Ortiz will take place on UFC Fight Pass on June 7th. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy the content, like and subscribe.